Good morning, good afternoon, good evening to East Central Missouri and the world, and welcome to the James Strong Show podcast, podcast number 342. Thank you for joining us. Thank you for making us a part of your day. I appreciate it. This podcast was recorded on the morning of Saturday, December the 16th, from the James Strong Studio in Western St. Charles County. Topic of today's podcast, today's essay, has to do with business's quest for affirmation. How is business different from people? Well, really, except for a business is an entity, not a human being. Everybody likes affirmation. Everybody likes to say, hey, you're good. Hey, you do a good job. Hey, I like you. Hey, etc. The good stuff, okay? When it's given to a person, it makes them smile and feel good about themselves. When it's given to a business, it means more dollar signs for the owner. But the way businesses are going about collecting affirmation, in other words, good reviews online, has really, well, we're going to talk about it in today's essay. It's bizarre how things have gotten. I've noticed this, and I've talked about it on the podcast more than once, but I've never done a whole show on it. Today, we're going to do a show on it. Business's quest for affirmation. What they're doing, in my very humble opinion, why it's just the wrong way to go about things. But the silver lining to that dark cloud out there is there are some businesses that are starting to realize there's a better way to do this. And we're going to talk about that on today's podcast. Before we do that, though, are you a Major League Baseball fan? I am. In fact, I'm a sports fan, but primarily a baseball fan. I live in East Central Missouri, so I'm a Cardinal fan, but I'm also a baseball fan. Baseball, to me, it's the American pastime. It's the perfect game. You don't have to be a fantastic athlete to be a fantastic baseball player. It helps, but you don't have to be. It's not all strategy and no physical work. It's not all physical work and no strategy. It's a good combination. It's a perfect balance of everything. But Major League Baseball has kind of gone down the rabbit hole when it comes to not so much what they're paying players, because the players get what the market will bear, okay? But it's the reasoning behind the money they're paying. And I just don't understand why they're doing it this way. Now, that being said, it's their money, not mine. But what you have to understand is there's a finite amount of everything. And Major League Baseball, it's a game, it's a sport, it's the national pastime, but it's also a business. And if the teams aren't in the black, there's going to be a problem. You think to yourself, well, Strong, what are you talking about? More people watch baseball than ever before, which is true, okay? The recent rule changes ticked up the ratings a little bit. But the ratings don't always equate into how much money the team is making. Case in point, San Diego Padres, who are in a smaller market, okay? When the Padres got the franchise in San Diego back in 1969, there were a lot who said this will never make it because San Diego is basically an island amongst itself. I mean, you've got San Diego that sits right there in extreme Southern California. To the west, and they've got a big population base, well over 1 million people. But to the west is the Pacific Ocean. Nobody lives there. To the north is Dodgers and Angels country. Nobody wants to follow them because they already follow the other two teams. To the south is Mexico. Now, once upon a time, Mexicans weren't going to come up and watch baseball. That's changed. And to the east is desert. Nobody lives there. But the Padres spent a lot of money on top-notch players. Oh, and by the way, by the end of last season, they had to borrow $50 million to make payroll. I'm going to repeat that. They had to borrow $50 million to make payroll, okay? So if you don't have enough money to pay your employees, that's a red flag, okay? we've had a handful of signings or trades recently for players that I get it. They're good players. Players can get whatever they think they should get. The owners make a lot of money. The players should be getting a part of that. But I scratch my head as to why these players are being paid this kind of money. Case in point, Shohei Ohtani. Okay. He's the Japanese pitcher, pitcher designated hitter, who was the MVP. And they call him a unicorn. And that's because he's one of the best hitters in baseball. Oh, and by the way, he's one of the best pitchers in baseball. So on paper, the guy should get more money than everybody else. And he is. $700 million over 10 years. That's $70 million a year. I want to say the biggest contract that has been given before that was $40 million a year. So this guy's getting paid almost twice as much. Now you could say, well, he does the job of two guys, so he can get twice as much. He's the hitter and he's the pitcher. Not so fast. Shohei Ohtani will not pitch next year because he had Tommy John surgery for the second time. So you say to yourself, okay, so he never pitches again, which, by the way, that's a real possibility. This guy may never pitch again. And if he does, he may be a very pedestrian pitcher because after your second Tommy John, after your first, players generally come back, like 80% of the players come back and they do quite well. Second time around, different story. But that's okay. Just make him a position player. Well, if he doesn't play pitcher, he plays designated hitter. In other words, he only hits for you. Okay. So Dodgers money. They may be paying a guy who only hits $70 million a year for the next 10 years. Now, I know some of that salary has been, deferred, but they're going to pay it eventually. Okay. That's a lot of money to pay for a guy who's just an unknown. Number 2, free agent signing, Jack Flaherty. He was a pitcher for the Cardinals. He was a young guy. He's a younger guy now. He should be just coming into his prime years right now. And he had a good half a year. No, he had an unbelievable half a year with the Cardinals, where his ERA was under 1 for the second half of the year. He was basically unhittable for 3 months, okay? Now, if you take that out of the equation, he's been injured. He's been a very pedestrian pitcher with an attitude. He has trouble getting along in the clubhouse. He has trouble getting along with management. He's never had a full year where he's done well. The Tigers just signed him to $14 million a year, okay? Now, it's the Tigers' money, and he may do just fine. But I don't know why they would pay a guy with almost no history. Yeah, several years ago, he had an outstanding 3 months. Other than that, I don't know. But $14 million a year, maybe it's not so much money. I don't know. Number 3, the Dodgers just signed a guy named Tyler Glasnow. Now, to be fair, they didn't sign him. They traded for him and then extended his contract. Who is Tyler Glasnow, you say? Well, he's a pitcher who has the potential to be one of the best pitchers in the major leagues. What does that mean? Well, if he just wasn't hurt, he'd be one of the best pitchers in the major leagues. There's only one problem. He's 30 years old, and he's been hurt every single year. Last year, 2023, he pitched more innings than he ever had before. Good sign, right? He pitched 120 innings. He'd never pitched that many before. I know it was a different era and a different man. But Bob Gibson when he pitched in his prime, he had 120 innings by Memorial Day. Okay. This guy had 120 innings for the whole year, and they're saying, wow, this is fantastic. Let's take this guy and throw all kinds of money at him. Okay. That's the way Major League Baseball has gone. But here's the thing. The Padres may be just the tip of the iceberg where they have to borrow money to make payroll. Most MLB teams make their money off their television contracts. And if you're in New York or Los Angeles or Chicago or Philadelphia, you make a ton of money, hundreds of millions a year. If you're in a smaller market, not so much. The Cardinals had a great contract with Bally Sports. They were getting tons of money from Bally Sports for televising their games. Oh, by the way, Bally Sports is bankrupt. They're not paying anymore. Where are the Cardinals going to get this money? I have no idea. The Dodgers and the Mets and Yankees and the Phillies and the Cubs and the White Sox, they have all kinds of money because they've got the big television contract with the big population base, big fan base. You may have the haves and the have-nots, because if you've got the Dodgers who get $150 million a year from television revenue alone, and the Cardinals who are getting nothing because the guy said, sorry, I know we owe you $70 million, but we're bankrupt, so you get nothing. And the court says we don't have to pay it to you. That's a big problem. That's a real big problem. How will it be solved? Film at 11. Let's find out. Okay, that's it. Let's do the podcast today, the essay today. Hang on. Let me get a sip here. Business quest for affirmation. Now, everybody loves a pat on the back, okay? Hey, good job. Hey, that was a great fill in the blank. Thank you, okay? And that's personal affirmation, personal interaction. One guy telling another guy something, one gal telling another gal something, okay? You did a good job. Thank you. You're at a restaurant. Hey, how was your meal? Question, how was your meal? Answer, it was fantastic. I really enjoyed it. Answer, well, thank you very much. I hope you enjoyed it. Please come again. Have a good evening, okay? But personal interaction has morphed into online interaction. People don't talk like they used to. They're just online doing stuff, okay? And business affirmation has morphed into the online review, and they all want it. They want you to give them 5 stars, 5 out of 5. 4.5 isn't good enough. 4 3/4 isn't good. We want 5 out of 5. And that's the internet's way of doing things. And by the way, that's how advertisers work now too. Okay, folks I know that I've talked to in radio, and even when I was in radio a while back, it was hard to get advertisers. It still is, because they say, well, we don't know how many people listen to this radio station. Okay, if I advertise online, I know how many clicks to get. Let me inform you about what a click means. You know, when you're doing something online and this annoying ad pops up and you click on it to close it, that's right, that's a click. So what that means is if that ad pops up every time 1 million people sign on to your website, like weather.com, okay? 1 million people sign in that website. This annoying ad pops up. You get mad and you click X. Weather.com then goes back to the advertiser and say, hey, you got 1 million clicks. Wow, I'll give you more money. No, you've made 1 million people mad, okay? That's a negative. It's not a positive. It's a negative. But that's not how things are perceived, okay? But I digress. Let me get back to what I was trying to talk about. Online reviews. And the absolute worst is probably Enterprise, the car rental company. Look, I love Enterprise. Enterprise is a good company. They're a St. Louis company. They've been around for a long, long time. I enjoy dealing with them. They have their problems, like all businesses have their problems, okay? But the biggest problem they have is their number one priority, the absolute number one thing, the absolute thing that is more important than anything else is that they get 5 out of 5 stars, okay? And they don't deserve 5 out of 5 stars. I don't review them. I just don't do it. Do the cars they produce or give you okay? Yeah, they're okay. They're fine. I just paid $82 a day to rent a car from them this week. Rented it out of Raleigh-Durham Airport. $82 a day, okay? Now, it was a Lexus. I didn't rent a Lexus, but I got a Lexus. I rented a Chevy Malibu or equivalent. Well, they said, I'm sorry, sir, we don't have any sedans, but we'll give you an SUV. I smiled and said, I don't want an SUV. I rented a sedan. I want a sedan. Well, sir, we don't have any sedans. I said, what about that Lexus over there? Well, yeah, but that's a premium luxury car. I smiled and they gave it to me. Okay. So there's my own workaround for that type of thing to get my own upgrades. Okay. That's kind of how I do it. But they always want the 5 out of 5 reviews, the best thing they can possibly get. They've got a new way to check in online, which is good. It saves you time. But again, I'm doing the whole check-in process for you. You don't have to pay a person to do it. Okay, I get it. It's a positive for you because you don't have to pay somebody behind the counter, but it's a positive for me because I can do it in my leisure time, and I can walk right up, get the car, and it saves me time too. So this is a win-win. You don't have to pay a person. I save time. I get that. That's good. It's a win-win. But then after they do this, okay, well, we'll email you the receipt. I said, well, can I just have a hard copy receipt instead of the email? Well, I don't have a way to do that. I said, okay, then we need to wait here until I get the email. Well, sir, it'll come. I said, but what if it doesn't? And a cop pulls me over. I have no way to prove that this is not a stolen car. So we wait. And after about 30 seconds or a minute, it pops up. I say, fine, thank you, and I leave. When I check the car out, when I drop it off, how was everything with the car? And it doesn't matter if everything was perfect or if it was horrible. They say, okay, well, thank you. Make sure you give us 5 stars. Yeah, the car was perfect. It rode great. It was wonderful. It was great. Okay, give me 5 stars. Or, it smelled like cigarette smoke. The front end shook and it had 80,000 miles on it. No, okay, sorry about that. Give us 5 stars. They don't care. They don't listen. They just want the 5 stars. And by the way, when you drop the car off, they say, okay, we'll email you your receipt. I said, well, can you print one out for me? Yeah, we can't do that. No. You used to. Yeah, we don't have printers anymore. We just email it to you. Translation, so you can print it out yourself. Or, worse yet, week before last, when it finally came, and it came, within 10 minutes it was there. It was just a receipt, which I need to turn into the boss, which is fine, but I'll print it out in my own time, so a little extra effort and a little extra work for me. But there was an extra charge on there that shouldn't have been there. Now, if I was right there and had a receipt, I could have looked at the receipt and talked to the person right there. But no, I had to get on the 800 number and wait in line and then have the person try to fix it for me. And they did fix it for me. Emailed me the receipt, and it was wrong again. So I said, no, thanks, but this is still wrong. Oh, I'm sorry. And they finally made it right. But it took me about 8 minutes of my own time to make the receipt right. But you're going to give us 5 stars, right? No, I'm not giving you 5 stars. You suck. And that's what people want nowadays. That's the number one thing businesses want. They want the 5 stars. There's an article I read this week. It was about a lady. Her name was Lucy Josephs. And she was a Brit, and she wanted to go to Montenegro for a vacation on the Adriatic coast. Okay. And she was looking at different places to stay, and there was a youth hostel in the town of Kotar, Montenegro. And it stood out for exceptional high quality. Okay. In fact, every online was 5 out of 5, every rating. Ms. Joseph said that should have been a flag, okay? Because if everybody loves you, beware. Now, for Ms. Josephs, who lives in London, reality fell short of the starry-eyed expectations. The Montenegro Hostel for You, that was the name of the hotel. First of all, the dorm smelled damp. Also, she said the hostel provided a certain touch of home. Translation, you had to clean your own bathroom. What? Oh, but here's the oddest twist. At the end, Ms. Josephs felt pressed to say that everything had been terrific. And after she checked out, the manager messaged her on Instagram and said, hey, we're looking for a positive review, so thanks. And she wrote an honest, mediocre review, giving them 5.7 out of 10 stars, okay? And the website, she did that on the website called Hostel World. And she said she was really disappointed by this hostel, and she thought that the staff was not even particularly friendly, okay? In other words, she gave an honest review. And isn't that what a review is supposed to be, honest? Now, online reviews are increasingly important and in many cases unregulated. It's an unregulated form of currency, in fact, in a global economy. Consumers use ratings to make everyday spending decisions, from where to eat to which plumber to call. Look at their reviews. Now, left unsaid, those glowing reviews can be typed out under pressure from guilt trips or in return for a reward. Now, after Ms. Joseph's review was posted, the host sent her multiple messages asking for a rewrite, saying her take had hindered the hotel's chances of winning an award. Well, I guess it did hinder the chances because it wasn't very good. If you're not very good, you don't deserve an award. Now, Ms. Joseph said, or the hotel owner said, "I'm sorry you felt like that in our place, but this low rating really hurts us. Please let us know if there's any way you can remove it." Then he said, "I would even compensate you for a night if that's what I have to do." Now, Ms. Josephs decided that would be unfair to other travelers. She said, "I don't feel right taking down the review. It was honest." She didn't want to be bribed to give a good review so somebody else suffers. Ms. Joseph said she ended up having to block the guy because he kept messaging her and would not stop. In fact, online reviews help consumers contend with uncertainty, things that they don't know. In fact, I mean, how many times do you go to Montenegro? You depend on the online review. The online review was jaded, and now Ms. Josephs knew why. Now, good reviews do mean better sales. That's a fact. In fact, there's a consulting firm called McKinsey & Company. They found that products with 3 or 4-star ratings on a major online platform had sales that were 3 times higher than those with a 1-star rating. And an increase of a single star on Yelp.com boasts a restaurant's revenue by 5 to 9%. And that's according to a guy named Michael Luca. He did research as an associate professor at the Harvard Business School. Now, Mr. Luca can't even order groceries without getting a request for feedback. He gets messages from shoppers for delivery companies. The delivery company Instacart saying, "Please, it's important to leave me a good review." In fact, shoppers with ratings of 4.7 or higher, 4 out of 5 stars, they get priority access to picking up incoming orders. That's classy. Now, in Berlin, Germany, a lady named Ebony Bueller and her friends, they were at a Mexican restaurant, and they asked the server, "Hey, it's happy hour. Would you mind opening a nicer bottle of tequila than the house stuff for our happy hour?" The bartender hesitated, but then, said, "You know what? I'll make a deal with you." He said, "I'll open the better brand of tequila for your happy hour, but you got to give us a positive review on Google." And they said, "Sure, we'll do that." So he sat over their shoulders to make sure they did it. After they did it and gave the positive review, he then gave them the upgraded tequila. Now, her view praised the Mexican restaurant's yummy food and said they really enjoyed the evening, okay? So they got a great review. In reality, Ms. Bueller said, the drinks were strong, but the food tasted of preservatives. Mexican food isn't great in Berlin, and this place was particularly bad. But that's not what her review said, because they gave her the good tequila. They lubricated her with good drinks, and the restaurant got a good review. Now, positive reviews have value more than just in hotels or restaurants. College professors, doctors, employers are all subject to online critiques. Now, the New York Attorney General said it recently secured a $100,000 fine from, get this, an orthopedic doctor. The Attorney General's office said this doctor suppressed negative feedbacks, hired contractors to post fake reviews, and then asked friends and family and employees to leave 5-star reviews. The doctor didn't even admit to wrongdoing, but he paid the fine. The FTC, the Federal Trade Commission, they're clamping down on practices like paying for positive reviews or muzzling the negative ones on grounds that they deceive consumers and drive spending away from honest businesses. Now, in September, the FTC said footwear brand Hey Dude agreed to pay nearly $2 million to settle an FTC charge that said, among other things, it misled consumers by suppressing negative reviews. They paid the fine, but admitted to no wrongdoing. Now, fake reviews have plagued the internet platforms like Amazon, where some sellers hunt down customers who leave negative reviews, and they give them free gift cards or free products in exchange for a positive review. So you have a horrible product All the reviews are good. You get the review and say, this sucks. You complain about it, and they say they'll give you a free one if you change it. So the deception just continues. There's another case in Boston. Bruegger's Bagels, which is a nationwide chain, or at least a regional chain, a big deal. They say on the receipt, it says, if you could fill out a survey with highly satisfied only, you will be helping us out. Oh, and you get 2 free bagels. And highly satisfied was underlined. In other words, give us a review, a good review, a great review, a perfect review, and we'll give you free stuff. Now, a manager there said patrons can get the free bagels for providing any survey feedback, but they say the positive or negative ones are welcome. That's not what it says on the receipt, though. Now, the manager did acknowledge that negative feedback hurts the store. So once in a while, we put a promotion out there to kind of convince the customers to give positive feedbacks. Okay. Now, Katie Stabler, she is a consultant with the English Village of Moberly. She took her car at an annual service to a Mercedes-Benz dealership ran by LSH Auto. Okay. And she accepted the free coffee while she waited for the service and said there was nothing to critique. It was nothing to sing and dance about. She took her car in. They fixed it. She enjoyed a free coffee. She paid a bunch of money, and she drove her car off. But at the end of my service, the gentleman who was responsible requested I complete the feedback for him and felt it prudent enough to inform me that a low score would financially impact him. Despite having a good experience, the management feedback left a sour taste in my mouth. That's what Katie Stabler said. Now, LHS Auto said team members aren't financially penalized for receiving low scores per se, but if they get good scores, they get bonuses and incentives. So in other words, it does impact them, okay? I've had cases like that at dealerships and other places where they really pressure you into giving a good review. I mentioned the whole enterprise, okay? They're the worst. In fact, as soon as you book online, they start texting you. Okay, in 2 days, you got to pick up your car. In 1 day, you got to pick up your car. In a half a day, you got to pick up your car. Now, you can opt out by saying stop. So you have to physically go in, put stop. And then they send you one more message saying, okay, we're not going to send you any messages unless you want to. When I bought my Jaguar, I've told this story before, but I think I'll tell it again because it'll be 7 years in January next month. But I bought this car. I tried to buy it from Plaza Motors here in St. Louis, and they wouldn't sell it to me because they found out it wasn't a lease. They had only so many to sell, and they couldn't make enough money off me. So they said, sorry, we're not going to sell you a car. So I had to go to Kansas City to get this car, okay? And it was fine, okay? I bought the car. The technology on it was quite complex for 2 reasons. First of all, technology had just started to become prevalent on cars, okay? And Jaguar, being a British company, makes things more difficult than they need to, but that's just how the Brits do things, all right? Sorry to all my English friends, but that's the way it is. But one thing they gave you was they gave you a half an hour sit down with a service rep who showed you how to do all the technology on a car, which was great. And the lady was very good. She was very informative, and she was doing a good job. And 15 minutes into it, she's like, oh, well, we're out of time here, so I need to go on to the next appointment. I said, you've only been here 15 minutes and I get 30. And she said, well, yeah, but I have an appointment in 15 minutes. I said, well, you were 15 minutes late for this appointment. That's why I only got 15. And I don't know everything yet. So deep sigh. She didn't want to, but she stayed for the full 30 minutes. She didn't want to, but she did. Oh, and by the way, when I went to drive my car away, there were no license tags on. There was no license hanger on there. And I said, there's no way for me to hang this license plate. Well, you can just go ahead and install it some other time. I said, no, I'm not going to install it some other time. I said, well, bring it back some other day. I said, you're in Kansas City. I'm in St. Louis. I'm not bringing it back another day. I need to have this installed. And they said, but the guys in the shop have gone home. I thought, okay, but you want 5 out of 5 stars, right? And the guy looked at me. He said, you know what? so-and-so in sales used to work in the shop. Let me talk to him. They did, and he installed it for me. And they said, you're going to get give me 5 out of 5 stars, right? Thumbs up. Yeah, okay, you get 5 out of 5 stars. And I gave it to him. But I had to sell them on giving me my full 30 minutes of tech training, and I had to sell them on installing the license plate holder onto the car, okay? That wasn't good, but they got their 5 out of 5. Honest reviews go a long way. And I'll tell you who gives the best reviews. Hilton Hotels, okay? When I travel, most of the time, I'll stay in a Hampton Inn or something like that, which is a Hilton property. Very basic, very easy, good beds, good pillow, decent breakfast. It's fine. It's a clean room, doesn't cost much. I get Hilton honor points for it. When I take the trophy wife on vacation, though, we'll stay in a Hilton or an Embassy Suites or or a Conrad or some upgraded hotel because I have the points, okay? And I always read the upscale hotels for reviews. And very rarely do you see these hotels with 5 out of 5 stars. Usually they're like 3.5 to 4 or 4.5, but never 5. And you think to yourself, well, that's not too great. But read the reviews, and they're very honest, and they tell you things that you really want to know. I'll give you an example of some of the reviews. One of the biggest complaints at these big up-class hotels are this. I'm only giving you 1 out of 5 stars because my husband and I came with our 6 kids, and the room was too small, and the restaurants didn't have kiddie meals. And they yelled at the kids because they ran around the pool and were knocking over the drinks of the old people. The old people have to understand that the kids just do this kind of stuff. Okay, you didn't like it, but you know what? I'm giving thumbs up to the restaurant for being this way because I don't want a bunch of little curtain climbers running around while I'm trying to be on vacation. And as far as the restaurant not having chicken fingers on the menu, this is an upscale resort, okay? This isn't Applebee's, all right? If you want chicken fingers for your kids, take them to Applebee's. Don't take them to an upscale place, okay? You'll get another thing saying, "Why? I checked in and it was 3:00 and check-in wasn't until 4, and they refused to give me my room." Well, it wasn't ready yet, okay? After the hassle of having to wait an extra half an hour for my room, even though it was before check-in time, they didn't give me an upgrade, and they didn't even apologize. And when I got to the room was smaller than I thought, and this room needed to be painted, and the carpet wasn't new, and it only had 3 soaps in it, not 2. Okay, so you gave them 2 stars out of 5. I appreciate stuff like that because here's a jerk being jerky, and that's what's brought down your rating, okay? Hilton Hotels probably does it the best, okay? Or, you know what? They charge me for parking. Okay, didn't you read? I don't like that they charge you for parking either. But it shouldn't be a surprise if you read the terms. You want to know if they charge for parking or not? Read it. If it says charge for parking, you make a choice. You either stay there and pay for parking, stay someplace else that doesn't charge for parking, or don't get a car. Okay? Hilton Hotels are about the best. So a negative review is not always negative. It's informative, okay? This hotel doesn't cater to children. So if you got 6 kids on vacation, go someplace else. Read the reviews. If I'm bringing my 6 kids to this hotel, I'm thinking, you know what? I probably don't want to go to this hotel because they're not going to really welcome me here. This is not their focused type of customer because you can't be everything to everybody. In fact, that is the kiss of death, trying to be everything for everybody. Now, that being said, let's go into part 2 of this podcast and how you can get affirmation. And what's the best way to get affirmation? Single out particular customers. In other words, a niche market. I've worked in manufacturing since I was 18 years old. And I've usually worked in markets that had a niche market. In other words, they're not everything to everybody. They're the best to a very small group of people. And that's where you can find success. The best example are restaurants. In fact, restaurants are doing things that are really, really cool. And there's a couple examples, a couple of stories I read in the Wall Street Journal of what a couple of chefs are doing to really do really very cool things, okay? Turning straw into gold. In fact, one chef was commenting on unique exotic cuisine. In fact, let's talk about Indian food. Most Americans have associated Indian food with monolithic, easily summarized by 5 or 6 dishes, okay? Chicken tikka masala, and that's about it, okay? Now, Indian cuisine is on the cusp of a revolution here in America. And it went beyond chefs taking chances to share their real food that's eaten within their own home, okay? In fact, regional Indian cuisine, which is tremendously diverse, is taking root in America. And people just aren't asking for chicken tikka masala, okay? But they're lining up for clay pot cooked goat, biryani. I'm probably pronouncing that wrong. It's a rice dish. I've had it. It's very good. Chefs from different cuisines have started to integrate local Indian ingredients with turmeric and ghee and other superfoods. Eating real spice and new flavors suddenly has become exciting and not scary. In fact, emerging chefs cooking Indian cuisine feel that it isn't down market to cook their own hometown dishes, but now they're taking pride in it, okay? They feel like they're able to cut the shackles of the colonial past and not worry about who's looking down on them. In other words, do your own thing, make it a little different. And a lot of these restaurants are small, okay? They may have 10 tables, okay? And they may have 10 tables and turn 3 tables a night. So they're only going to have 30 customers. They don't need to be Applebee's, okay? If you got 30 customers a night and you can't serve any more than that, why compromise? If you're going to get 30 customers a night doing what you want, that's great. And more people are doing it. Restaurants are also, there's a renaissance in restaurants, and it's like a return to a hospitable past, okay? And if there's any consistent in the relentless and unforgiving restaurant industry, it's that people look for nostalgia, at least old people like me. There were lots of exciting restaurants and cookbooks and stuff like that were launched. But the biggest story this year is return to classic hospitality. In fact, fine dining has done away with the dopey digital menus where you have to have a smartphone, click on the QR code, and then you read your menu. They hand you a big, beautiful, oversized menu that feels great in your hand. You can turn it. You can actually read it. It's actually updated. And signs that once instructed customers to seat themselves, you got a person saying, "Oh, please, Mr. and Mrs. So-and-so, come with me." In fact, the personal interaction is what makes people smile. It makes dining in a restaurant unique. Okay. There was one restaurant, it was an Iranian restaurant that they were talking about called Joon, Joon, in Vienna, Virginia. They had a delicious meal. It left a lasting impression on the reviewer, and they went away with a comment and for the hospitality of the hostess, the waiter, the bartender. They were just nice and kind and smiled and had personal interactions, okay? And they didn't ask for a dopey review. Now, if you get this kind of service in a restaurant, what are you going to do? You're going to do 2 things. First of all, you're going to leave a nice tip. Second of all, you're going to go back. Oh, and third of all, you're going to tell your friends about it, okay? Now, there were a lot of tough times in restaurants during the pandemic. So maybe they've learned that, you know what? Let's do it the right way, okay? I talked about Indian food, but cultural honesty is also a way they're doing it. In fact, ethnic restaurants that are very ethnic are becoming important. In fact, a lot of times, if you go into University City here in St. Louis area, we have our own little Chinatown. You'll go into some of these Chinese restaurants, and there's not a white, brown, or black face in that place. They're all yellow faces. It's all Asian people. In fact, they don't cater to the Western tongue or the Western palate, I should say. They cater to the local people from their own culture. And again, these are small restaurants. They only got 10 tables. If they're only going to turn it 3 times a night or 2 times a night, they're only going to get 20 to 30 customers, and they don't need to change it because they're unique. They fill up every night. Quality, not quantity, okay? And ingredients, perfect ingredients, okay? Don't make everything the same. Go ahead and make it a bit different. In fact, make it a lot different. Make there be a reason that you're going to go here and not there. Now, I get it. When I travel on the road, I want a safe restaurant. If I eat lunch, quite often it's going to be at Panera Bread because it's a safe place, okay? If I'm on the road, I'm going to eat at a chain. I'm going to eat at Texas Roadhouse or Outback or some other restaurant. Sometimes I'll eat at a local restaurant, but the local restaurants, unless I know them, I don't like to eat there because if I get a bad dinner and I don't get dinner, I can't go back to, and I'm hungry, I can't go back to the hotel and have a snack because there's no food there, all right? So you got to have a good dinner. This last time out, I ate at a restaurant called Chow Pizzeria. How did I know it was good? Because on a Wednesday night, it was jam-packed. And this was a big restaurant, okay? If it's jam-packed, there was one seat at the bar, and I shoehorned myself into that, okay? You know that place is going to be good. And by the way, it was, okay? So if I'm eating on the road, I want something safe, okay? But if I'm eating at home, I mean, the trophy wife and I are both very good cooks. She does some stuff, I do other stuff. And there, very, very rarely is there a restaurant that we eat at. In fact, I do steaks far better than Outback. She does casseroles and Italian food far better than any Italian restaurant that I know of. But if we're going to eat at home, get something that we can't do. We don't cook Indian food. Too many ingredients. We don't cook specialty Italian food, okay? If we're going to eat at home, we're going to look for something that's unique and something we can't cook at home. In other words, a unique dining experience. Often local, usually locally owned, okay? Only because they understand what people in this area want, okay? It's not somebody in New York telling me this is what I'm going to like and leave a 5-star review. It's a family saying, I know this is what some people like, enough people. And really, all you need is enough, okay? So in summary, we're all looking for affirmation. Everybody likes to be told they're doing a good job. But if businesses want to get on board, drop the stupid reviews. Nobody believes them anyway. It's simple business 101. You want good business, provide a good product and service at a fair price, and people will come back, and people will tell their friends. That's what it's all about. That's it. I'm done. JamesStrongShow@hotmail.com. That's the email address. Send me an email with your feedback, with your suggestions, with your comments. I do answer all my emails. I'll go ahead and send you a link to the podcast upon publications. You can download it and listen to it at your leisure. Tell your friends, tell your family, tell everybody to make the show a little bit more popular. I appreciate it as always. That's it. I'm done. Until next time, this is James Strong saying adios.